So I launched my first Etsy shop on digital art photography back in 2019, and to my surprise, it took off. Things went very well. Granted, it was around the time when lockdown came in and everybody was stuck inside and buying, and this was the perfect time to excel this platform further and start to sell my stuff. And I'll be the one to admit, I got very lucky and made a lot of sales, started getting a lot of money in, so I quit my job, moved away, bought a new house, and then something unexpected happened. The sales just stopped coming in. And panic sets in me of, I've uprooted my whole life. I thought this was something that was working. It's been working well for a year. It's been bringing me a full-time income in. And then out of nowhere, it just drops down from sort of £2,000, £3,000 a month it was bringing in to a couple of hundred, which is still good because sales were happening, but I began to panic. I began to look at other options and start to abandon the chore because I had failed to do some very important things to not only keep my store consistent as a bestseller, but actually these were things I should have done in the first place to try and get my product selling and my store to be active. Now, you might be in a similar position of me where you've tried to sell your prints and you've tried to sell digital art and it's just not gone anywhere. This video will help you out on that. Or you could be in another position where you're starting to see your sales decline, and what you do is you sit back and you kind of blame everything happening around you. You think, well, the economy's not so great, so it must be that. Well, it's it's just after Christmas, so no one's buying, it must be that. These are all excuses, and yes, whilst they are things that are happening in the world, there's always other markets to tap into. There's always things you can do to kind of combat these situations. They are always going to pop up. They are always going to occur. For you to be successful in selling your creative products, whether it's digital art, photography, anything that you're making, you need to employ some real crucial business tactics to protect yourself and not end up in the situation that I got into. So why did my shop fail pretty much overnight? It just dropped in a month. Well, that's because of something that I'd like to call the skyscraper effect. Now, this is named after when skyscrapers were first becoming a thing. One skyscraper would go up and then another country says, well, I'm going to build the next biggest building. And then even in the city, you saw the New York skyline just explode and people trying to outdo each other. The problem is when you are successful and you're on top, you're a target. People are going to want to come up there and knock you off the mountain and take your spot. Success attracts people to copy and do the same things. The skyscraper effect when it comes down to sort of e-commerce is essentially looking at people who are selling really well, who are making profits, and trying to find gaps in what they're doing, finding a gap in the market they're not covering, improve on their product, improve on their prices, do something that makes you look more attractive as a competitor so that people start to buy your stuff instead of the current bestsellers. And this is how people can lose their bestseller tags. This is also how people kind of really make it in the first place, because they're not actually looking at the market and what is selling. They're just making for themselves. Now, I'll admit, when I first started, I was making for myself. I was selling prints that I liked. I was creating digital art that I liked as well. And I just got lucky. I fell into a gap in a market and my store grew from there. But I didn't know that was what was happening. If you're in a point where you're struggling to sell any of your work, it's most likely because you're selling for yourself and not actually selling for the customer. You're not selling for the eye of the people that want to buy it. You're selling for your own eye. And I get it, in creative stuff it's really hard because it's so subjective. Art is, everyone likes slightly different things. But you can spot trends in the market and you can see what's selling well and try to emulate that and actually try to skyscraper the competition yourself. So that's how my store failed. So how did I fix it? Well, pretty much by just doing some of the things that I've mentioned to you there, which is I used certain tools. One of them that I absolutely love is Everbee, and I used Everbee to actually check out my competition, find out the people who built that bigger skyscraper than me, knocked me off my pedestal, and work out what is their offer. And their offer comprises of different things. Their offer is the actual product itself. How is it better than mine? What is it offering that's different? But also, by checking out reviews of the stores and things, figuring out what is it that customers don't like about it. What are the pains of the customer? What do the customer want to see? Reviews of other shops are a great place to actually get into the minds of your customer and see what is it they love about it and what is it they wish was better. And these are the two things that are going to feed into what you sell, and it actually influences then what you take photos of, what you create as art pieces. The biggest success that I saw off the back of fixing my shop is that I aimed down more of a personalised route. So whilst I was taking photos of locations, instead of just selling these as prints, I would convert these into almost like posters, location posters and things, and offer personalization on them. Yes, this is no longer becomes like a digital product, but it's actually a product that sells better because it's more personalized and it hits on the emotional triggers of those that are looking to buy. Immediately, you are shifting the product into the hands of the customer to say, make this what you want it to be, and then they're more likely to buy it, rather than this is what I want the product to be, this is what I want the print to look like. Everbee was a great tool to allow me to kind of do this, find out actually who my competitors were, who was the person that skyscrapered me in the first place, and really look at their offer. And beyond the process is also looking at materials, it's looking at the delivery, it's looking at the prices as well. And the pricing was the biggest one that I found needed to be fixed on my store. Loads of people had seen I would found this gap in the market, and they were starting to create things that were around the same sort of style, the same prints. Let's take these location posters. They would start to see, this is selling, so I'm going to start selling this. I want a piece of this cake. But they offered it at such a lower price that I immediately threw my listing alongside theirs out the customer's eyes. Customers see three things when they're looking at it. They see the actual product, what it is, whether they like it or not. Then they look at the price, and then they look at the reviews to see if it's trustworthy and actually what exactly you're selling is what they're going to receive in the end. Those three things need to look good alongside your competition. My price did not. But I also couldn't pull down my price because my process for creating the art was too complicated at the time. So I ended up having to make Photoshop templates, make it easier for me to drop this personalization and drop this stuff into it and reduce my time to create from about 20 minutes down to 10 minutes. Suddenly I can look at almost half in the price because I'm not going to offer the same price for the same amount of time as I'm creating. That's devaluing my time, and it's devaluing actually how much I can take in as an income. I still want to make sure that whatever time I give up to creating products for people is matched to my expected income. That's the only way you can quit your job. So Everbee allowed me to really find out who was doing this, match their prices, look at their keywords and their SEO, and really take this too. It's a great tool, and I'm going to do more videos on this in the future, and I've got a really handy ebook that I'm working on at the moment, which kind of takes you through a step-by-step on creating an Etsy store that actually sells and getting a bestseller tag. So if that is something that you're really interested in, make sure you subscribe to the channel, comment down below that you're looking forward to receiving that. I'll also put a link to Everbee down below so you can straight away get started and have an explore around the platform. First month is free, I think, so I just recommend not even having it long term, just get on the platform, start looking around. Before you decide to sell anything or set up an Etsy store, have a look at what is actually selling. So the key things to fixing your store really and getting it back to the glory days it would have been, or even just launching your digital art photography store in the first place, is you've got to do your project research. You've got to look at who's selling, how is it selling, and what's it selling for. That's going to make sure, is it worth you actually doing in the first place? From that, you'll find out what is it the customer actually wants. And then you need to create your products for the customer. And you need to package them in a way for the customer, not for you. Thirdly is looking at your pricing and your processes. Make sure your prices are competitively matched. Doesn't mean you have to be the lowest price in the competition. It just means you need to be in the ballpark of it. A trick that I sometimes do with pricing is my initial price is quite low for something like a digital file. That might be £9 on the front end. Buyers click that because it looks appealing, but when they go into printed variations, I can then price them a little bit higher than my competition because by that point I've hooked them into my listing. So that's a big pricing tactic I do. I'll have the lowest kind of price on the front end that attracts the customers in, but then I'll sell them something that may be a bit more expensive than competition. If they like what they're seeing, they've already been drawn in by the price, they read the review, that's what's going to get you to convert. The final one then was brand. So I realized on my initial store, I didn't actually have much of a brand behind me. I just had my photos up, my digital art up, and the store was a bit of a mess in all honesty. And I realized that I actually only had a few listings that were selling, which kind of follows the 80-20 rule of 80% of stuff is just pointless on the store. It was the 20% making me the money. When I was coming around to fixing the store, that's what I doubled down on, was what are the products that were selling in the past and improving those and ditching everything else. And then forming a brand around that. And by brand, I mean having consistent colors, fonts, style, a logo, tone of voice. All of these things feed into you as a brand so that when customers do buy from you and they do buy your products, they are receiving a brand with that product that they become associated with. So when they come back to Etsy, they return back to your brand, a brand that sticks in their mind and becomes memorable, one that stands out on the pages when they're searching for products. Having a good brand behind you, whether it is a company brand or just your name as a brand, is really essential. It not only goes beyond looking good, but it actually builds trust with the customer, that you look more professional, therefore your product is more likely to be professional. So those 4 things there are how I overcame the skyscraper effect of losing my store and having it fail on me. It's a horrible lesson to learn, but was a really essential lesson, and it's one that I don't want anyone else to really go through, because it's a horrible time when you have quit your job and then you just watch your entire e-commerce business collapse around you without really realizing why it is. If you know from the start that you need to be doing these 4 things of product research, good pricing, your process, having your brand, if you've got that from the start, it's easier then for you to stay on top. As people try to steal the success from you or get a piece of your pie, it's easier for you to combat that because you already know how to go back in and put your shields up and look at what they are offering and combat that, and then offer something better than them. That's how you're going to stay on top and keep those bestseller tags. The biggest piece of advice I can give to you is don't get complacent. You get complacent, it will fail eventually. It might be in a day, a week, a month. If you get complacent with your store and sitting on top, someone will come and knock you off of it. So I hope you found some value in that, and I'm hoping to put up some more videos about business soon. Like I say, I've got some exciting things in the pipeline of like ebooks and courses and stuff to help you build your own creative business, whilst kind of keeping this all down the photography and art side, because that is where a lot of my own products lie and what I love doing. So don't worry, it's not a diverting in the channel into something different. It's just hopefully some more tips and things that will help you as a creative do more of what you love doing, which is creating things, and doing a lot less of what you hate, which is probably that 9 to 5 job. Anyway, subscribe, comment, I'll see you in the next one.